All right, we're here. We're live. Thanks to everyone for joining. I'm Stephen Denison. I hang out with John at Body Smart once in a while, and I also have been seeing Ariel, who's also on the call. She's a holistic practitioner, and I've been a patient of hers for several months. And I've been a patient of John's through Body Smart for about 10 years now. They both have helped make a tremendous difference in my life. So while we're all kind of stuck at home, we thought we would put together a few calls, a few chats, and try to pass on some knowledge and some testimonials of experiences, both of ourselves and also of some of the people we've worked with. So that's why we're all here together. Today's topic is screen time. As we're on the screen, that's kind of funny. Posture and sleep. And John and Ariel are going to bring those three things together for us. And we're also going to hear a little bit from Madison Jarvis, who's on the line, and Denise O'Donnell, who's also on the call. They both generously offered their time to share a little bit about their experience working with John and Ariel. And we thought that would be helpful because one of the things in working on different things, different changes, often we don't realize when change is happening. And so hearing from other people that things have worked for them reminds us that things can also work for us. I'll speak to that a little bit more later. So first, I'm actually going to turn it over to John Reimer. He's the founder and president of Body Smart Health, fitness center, massage therapy, rehabilitation center in Langley. John's going to talk to us a bit about our topic for the day, and then we'll turn it over to Ariel and carry on from there. So thank you. Save your questions for maybe after John chats. And if anyone has a question, just feel free to unmute and say, hey, I have a question, or wave at me, or make a funny face.
All right.
Okay, John, it's over to you now.
All right, so thank you, Stephen. Thank you for that. Today, we're just going to get started with sort of posture, screen time, and then we're going to be getting into a bit of a discussion on sleep as well. Our last conversation was on air and water. And so we wanted to bring things to you that are of a repetitive nature, things that we do on an ongoing basis over and over and over again that tend to have a huge impact on us over long periods of time. And so if we address these issues, that's going to have a huge ripple effect into all areas of our not only body, mind, but also our spirit side. So we're at home a lot now. We're not moving as much as we typically should, and that's just general with our society as it is. So a talk on posture is very important and also very timely. We spend a lot of time sitting, especially in front of computer screens like we are right now. So we can all use a little bit of a posture tune-up to help us do that a little bit more effectively. So when we're sitting in front of a computer screen, the key to sitting the key to posture is going to be in your pelvis, what you're actually sitting on. Oftentimes, I'm just going to turn sideways. The typical posture is that slouch posture. I'll just maybe move my camera down a little bit. But that head forward type of posture, that's pretty typical when you're sitting in front of a computer. These types of things over a long period of time have a huge impact on how your body functions. So that head, that weighs about 10 pounds, but when that comes forward a little bit more and a little bit more, every inch that comes forward, you're adding another 10 pounds of strain right onto the back of your neck right there. Now, the head and neck, that's at the one end of your spine, which is what you're actually sitting on. So as that pelvis rotates, when that pelvis rotates back, that's the typical slouch posture. So if everyone, instead of trying to bring your head back or trying to bring your shoulders back, if you just try to move your pelvis forward a little bit more, that's going to help take care of that posture sitting up all by itself. And when you're trying to bring your head back and your shoulders back, you're trying to do that on your own power, and it's just not sustainable for long periods of time. You're just going to fall apart and you're just going to get back into that slouch position. So seeing that we're kind of at home now with this whole situation that we're in, and we're also in front of a computer screen for long periods of time, another thing to take into consideration is what we're watching on the computer screen. we're hearing a lot of news about a lot of different things, and it's very concerning. So that's going to elevate our stress levels, which will affect our breathing and so on and so forth, which we talked about a bit last time. But I mean, the sitting position, the slouch position, Ariel, do you have anything to add to that? Like maybe how would that slouch position affect us from a digestive system perspective?
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, you're good. Hi, I'm Ariel Jarvis, natural health practitioner at Vitality Wellness. So just when it comes to digestion, that's kind of where my area of expertise is. And I really like to give the analogy of your body cavity is actually quite small and compact. And your entire organ system, digestive system, gastrointestinal system, if you were to actually lay it out, it's about 21 feet long. So that is all compressed within the tiny little body cavity. And so if you're slouching all the time, you're putting a lot of strain on those kidneys, and you're not allowing there to be enough space within the stomach or within the digestive system or the intestinal system to allow those gastric juices and to allow things to move and flow. And so what happens is things can get stuck, or they can get tight, or the valves don't open properly. There's a lot that can go wrong when you're not sitting upright and when you're not open. So you really want to be open. You don't want to be kind of shoulders forward and really slouching with that core kind of sticking out. You want to keep that tight core because you want to keep the entire intercostal muscles strong and so that they can protect all the gastrointestinal areas. Otherwise, we do find that digestion, it just doesn't perform as well as your kidneys, as well as your adrenals, and then it just affects the central nervous system.
Awesome, thanks for that. Also, I'm just going to add in, when we're sitting for long periods of time and we get up, we stand up and we start to move around, our muscles, you know, they don't necessarily catch up with us. It's like being on a computer screen for a long period of time, or actually not being on a computer screen for a long period of time. The computer screen goes in hibernation and it just shuts off. And when our muscles have not functioned for a while, they kind of do the same thing. They go into hibernation. So when we stand up after sitting for a while, our glutes, our low back muscles, they're still in a little bit of a hibernation. And we expect them to be online and ready to go, but they're not necessarily ready to go. And so then we start getting active and start doing something, but they haven't caught up to us yet. And so other muscles are going to have to compensate for that. And that can also lead to some issues down the line, which I see very commonly. So the glutes, now we're talking more a little bit pelvis and pelvic floor, and then that might be a talk for another time. But I also just want to get in a little bit more onto the computer screens themselves. And again, we're spending a lot of time in front of this type of light and radiation that's in our eyes that goes right into our nervous system, and that can stimulate that nervous system for a long period of time. So we're in front of this computer, we're taking all this stuff in. Not only it's affecting our nervous system from the computer screen itself, but the information that we're taking in also has an effect on our nervous system, which can have an effect on your tone or tension of the muscles that you have in your system, as well as your digestive system and all the other systems that we have. Now, when our stress levels are up, our sleep kind of maybe not be so good. And so now let's say it's time to go to bed. You've been on the computer for quite a bit during the day because, you know, there's not all that much to do nowadays. And you wake up in the middle of the night and you reach for your device and you get back on your screen, hoping that it'll help you get back to sleep. Ariel, do you have anything to add on how, you know, how disruptive being on the screen can be for our sleep? When we've been on it all day, and then at night, now we're like, okay, I'm awake. I want to get back to sleep, but I'm going to watch something and that's going to help me get back to sleep.
That's a great point. Very good point, John. So basically what happens is you're creating a lot of neurological messages, and because your body is staring at the screen, usually there's the blue light associated with it, and the body has to collect data from the response stimulus. So what's happening is the neurological pathways in the brain are firing, and so it's really disrupting the circadian rhythm, and it's blocking the proper production of melatonin. And so when people are, you know, consistently stimulating that part of the brain before bed, it's really hard to just kind of transition out of the central nervous system into the parasympathetic. So the body can't just, go black and white or on and off like a light switch. It has to do the slow transition. And so when you are going from being on a screen and then just lights out, the body just needs time to adapt. So I always recommend that if you're going to be on a screen, give yourself about an hour or two afterwards where you can kind of wind down. That way your body can kind of get back into its rhythm, and then it can create the proper melatonin productions. Now, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you look at your phone, well, that can also stimulate those neurological pathways to send those messages. So that can really disrupt your sleep patterns as well. So it's really not recommended to wake up in the middle of the night and take a look at your phone or turn on the TV or go on your laptop. It would be better for you to have, a dim light and read a book, or, even just get up and have a warm glass of water and go back to bed sort of thing, but trying not to, have that stimulus affecting the frontal lobe.
I ask a question about that, Ariel, as I think this is an important one and a distinction. You mentioned laptop, TV, and computers and phones. A lot of people like to watch TV right before bed. And is there a contact, is there a safe way to watch TV right before bed if it's, 20 feet away from you, or is that causing the same kind of stimulation?
There's always a correlation. I can't really pinpoint cause and effect, but there's definitely a correlation, and some people are just more sensitive than others. But if you do find that you are more sensitive, I would recommend getting an EMF blocker. You can get them on Amazon and put that on your devices, and then also unplug your Wi-Fi at night so that you're not, because you don't see the waves, you don't see the actual electromagnetic waves, but they are creating some sort of frequency that is disrupting your cells.
And also to add to that, and maybe John, you're about to, but most of our phones do have blue light filters built in. I know for sure on my Android phone, I can turn on a blue light filter at any point during the day. I generally keep it on unless it's super bright out and won't really impact me. Also, Windows 10 has that feature built in, and I'd recommend most people turn it on throughout the day because we really don't need that blue light.
Awesome.
Hey, Ariel, what would you say about even having your phone charging beside you at night?
Great point. So I always tell my patients, try to put your phone in another room, but if that's your alarm clock, then you need to have 1 meter dome. So you need to have a 1 meter protective, like there's no electronics within 1 meter all the way around you, 360 degrees.
Or just get an alarm clock.
Or get an alarm clock, exactly. But a lot of people might not want to do that. So at least have it at the end of the room. It has to be, out of reach by 1 meter, because otherwise the wavelength can affect you. And it sounds crazy, but it definitely does disrupt your circadian rhythm.
Awesome. Thanks for that. What would I add to that? I've had some disrupted sleep definitely over these last many weeks. My approach is to focus on my breathing. That I find that really helps me get back to sleep, just to get into a rhythm of breathing, as well as prayer and meditation during that time. I find that they're very powerful to help me drift back off to sleep. Sometimes it's really hard. It's a real fight to make that happen. But I find if I really focus on just the one thing, either just the breathing or the prayer and meditation, that it just really does help a lot.
Awesome.
And I think from a holistic practitioner perspective, Ariel, I think now is a good time to just mention some of the things that you do in your practice to help people with sleep. I've been taking passion flower in the evening when I've had a particularly stressful day, which is a lot of them lately. And so I'm taking that, and I actually find it helps me fall asleep easier and stay asleep. Also,
awesome.
the changing water and other things can help as well. But I know that you can help people with that in other ways if they need that extra help to boost their chances of getting into a proper circadian rhythm.
Yeah. So as a nutritionist and herbalist, I'll just talk about how food is medicine. So I always encourage people to eat cashews and pistachios. You want to have about 10 to 20, and you want to have them at bedtime, because it takes about an hour or two for them to secrete serotonin and melatonin. as long as they're organic. If they're not organic, then the glyphosate will actually block that ability. The second thing that I like to do is I recommend a supplement called HTP Power, which helps with serotonin and helps you fall asleep. And then HVP is a concoction of Chinese herbs that helps with people that can't fall asleep, or they consistently wake up, or they wake up and they feel like they didn't really hit that sleep. The other one that Stephen mentioned is the passion flower. That one is more for anxiety and insomnia. And then we have Herbal CA, which is a bunch of different types of flowers put together in a capsule. And that one also helps with like restless sleep, tossing and turning, and for people that are not quite getting into the REMs. I always encourage people, do not eat 2 hours before bed. If you eat right before bed, now digestion has been stimulated. And so what happens is the body is now awake. And so the body will want to digest that food while you're sleeping, which means you're not going to hit all your REM sleeps properly. The other thing I want to mention is water. So a lot of people, you know, water is a kind of a hit and miss. If you're not drinking enough water throughout the day, you can wake up super dehydrated. And if you are mindful of your water throughout the day and you drink a bunch of water before bed, well, then that can also disrupt your sleep. So just being mindful of when you're having your water, because you do need to have about 3 to 4 liters over a day. So you've got to fit that in. What I like to do is I like to have 1 liter right off the bat. It gets it easier. And then I just make sure that I'm not drinking any water within an hour or two before bed. The other thing that I want to mention quickly is sweets. So a lot of people like to have their dinner and then their dessert. Try to avoid having your dessert at night. If you're going to have a dessert, have it in the day so that you can have that spike and then that crash, because that spike could come when you're trying to go to sleep. So you have to almost time that spike where it's going to come down when you're trying to go to bed. Otherwise, if you're trying to go to bed and it's going up, then you're going to be tossing and turning. The other thing is, if you find that you are doing all these things appropriately and you're still having a hard time falling asleep, then I encourage you to maybe take a little investigation into parasites. Parasites are in a lot of our food, and they're just in our environment. Everybody has parasites, but if you have too many, what can happen, and basically you would know that because you would have certain symptoms. But if you're starting to notice that you're having issues with your sleep and you're doing everything else right, then I would encourage you to take a look at, you know, maybe the levels of parasites in the body, because they are nocturnal. And the best way to combat that is with pumpkin seeds, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. And then they feed on sugar. So don't eat any bread or sugar for a little while. And then the last thing I want to mention is making sure that you don't have your thoughts just spinning when you're trying to go to bed. Be really mindful of, you know, when you're dealing with certain things in your day, try to really work on shutting off that brain at night, because if you're trying to go to bed and you're just replaying everything in your day, then that can come out in your sleep patterns, that can come out in your dreams, just different things like that. So just some herbs and some healthy hygiene habits. I like to have an Epsom salt bath once in a while before bed. That really helps with me. So stuff like that. And exercise is really good in the day too.
I'm going to jump here on that Epsom salt bath, because I had that in my head to share that. One thing to keep in mind of, if you're in a hot, warm bath, it can stimulate your nervous system as well. So if you're in a bath for longer than 10 minutes, a hot bath for longer than 10 minutes, that can stimulate you, and that'll keep you awake as well right before you go to bed at night. So if you're having a hot bath at night or in the middle of the night, keep it short, nice and short. Hot shower, hot bath, keep it short, under 10 minutes.
Great point.
I see a lot of clients that have a lot of sleep issues, and that's a big red flag for me, because if you're not sleeping, you are not restoring your body. Your batteries are not getting recharged. You're not healing. You will not heal. So this is a massive, massive issue that is very important. It's a big part of our life. 1/3 of our day is spent sleeping. So 1/3 of our life is spent sleeping. That's where we recharge our batteries and restore our systems. So sleeping is of utmost importance. It's on that very, you know, we need sleep. We have to have sleep. Good quality sleep.
Yeah, and if I just might mention also, magnesium really helps with sleep, but a lot of times people don't take enough. So I always get my patients to take 3 capsules in the morning and 3 capsules at night. I like the magnesium malate. There's 3 different types of magnesium, but that one really helps with calming the central nervous system and getting you into those REM sleeps. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was the amount of sleep. A lot of people don't know how much sleep is technically good. So you want to have about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And if you do wake up in the middle of the night, as long as it's not more than 10 to 15 minutes, you can go back into your REMs without disruption. So you want to get, if you do go to the washroom or something like that, and then you can't fall back asleep within a half an hour, then you've basically started over, but you can kind of get away with about 10 to 15 minutes. But the 7th hour is the critical hour, because that's when the brain actually cleans itself from all the toxins and pollution and pollutants from the last 24 hours. So if you're doing like, different types of, evening shifts where you're not getting that, or you're just skipping nights where you're just like pulling all-nighters like I used to do when I was in school, your brain actually gets hot. And I remember my brain would get hot sometimes, and it would feel like a computer is overheating. That's because it is. It's because it's not able to clean itself from the pollution from the day before. So just being mindful of that, because your cells do need time. They need rest time to repair. They need rest time to recharge, and they need to have you laying in a flat position to circulate the water throughout the body. So it's like a pool, right? You want to clean the water, clean the lymphatic system. So it's super, super important.
Does that include toxic thoughts?
No, unfortunately not. That's where you need Jesus.
Awesome. That's great. You're muted.
I wanted to add a comment about consistency and timing and things.
What was that?
I think, Denise, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead and make your comment. I know you had some thoughts.
Oh, well, mostly I've just been sitting here in the background, nodding my head, agreeing emphatically with those things that Ariel was saying. I certainly know all those things work for me, keeping the Wi-Fi, all that radiation away from the bed. In terms of the blue light, because my husband does need to read his phone fairly close to bed. He's got blue light glasses just to help, but even better, I think, is exactly what you're saying, 2 hours before bed, no screens. I saw a huge difference in my children's behavior when we really started instituting the no eating, no screens before bed. They weren't waking up cranky anymore. My oldest son, who's 13, is on the spectrum for autism. And when we really started looking at his diet and a lot of those things you were saying about the parasites, the pumpkin seeds, the cloves, ginger, garlic, not garlic, but the other ones, that really helped with his digestion and played a role as well. And so we found all of those behaviors that we were told we were going to have to medicate for, it's just a matter of time. Well, now he's going to sleep regularly. He's off his screens. His diet's improved. And we've really seen some great improvements in his behavior.
Awesome.
So I think I'm going to take this point to transition and actually ask Denise to carry on. Denise, you've known John for quite a long time. Maybe just tell us how you know John and some of the things that he's been able to help you and your family with. And also, one of the reasons, again, that we brought Denise and Madison, in this case, into the conversation is because I think we've all found that when we try new things in our lives, we may not actually realize that there's change. On Sunday's call, we're going to talk about ketones, and actually John's been starting to take them recently. I have been for a while, but I've been noticing some changes with John. I talk to him several times a day, and I've actually noticed some changes. And it's important for people to mirror those things to you. So Denise, maybe you can talk about your work with John and some of the things that's helped your family in that regard.
Well, I got to know John because each of our youngest daughters became friends, and I kept seeing this guy on the playground coming to pick up his daughters. Oh, he seems like a great guy. And then I got chatting with this other lady. That was Ava's mom. I thought she was this great lady. Wow, I've met these amazing people. And then I find out later they're in fact married. So I learned that John and Deanna are this great powerhouse team. As I got talking to them, I learned that they ran this company, Body Smart Health and Fitness. And I didn't really think about it too much then. I was a big CrossFitter, always going to the gym. And then 2 years into knowing John, I was like, yeah, geez, I have this injury. And then John's like, gee, if only you knew somebody who knew how to help with that. And what really struck me about that is for a whole year, I worked with personal trainers who were trying to fix my Achilles. So we were doing physio and rehab, always working with the Achilles, massage therapy, stretching, ankle mobility. None of it was helping. And then he suggested I come in for a body assessment. And within 5 minutes of laying me on the table and going through all my joints, he figured out that my IT band was tight. He found that out by me laying on my back. He pressed his fingers into my stomach, and I'm thinking, what does this have to do with my Achilles? But then he found right away that those IT bands in there were super tight. He gave me some stretches and exercises to loosen up my pelvis area. And right away, getting off the table, I noticed a shift in my Achilles. So he was able to point out that my Achilles were being overworked because my IT band was tight, which was shutting off my glutes and my hamstrings from doing the work, which meant my Achilles had to compensate and do some of that work. And I thought, what have I been doing working with these other trainers for a year when within 5 minutes I could have somebody who could help me pinpoint the error and sort that out. So thank you to John, and for anybody who hasn't been, I highly recommend at least a 10 to 15 minute body assessment. Because when you think you have it figured out, his body of knowledge will definitely point out some things you might not see.
Thanks, Denise. One of the things that I've discovered over the years about John is a session isn't just a session, it's also very educational, and he has a passion for teaching people how to take care of themselves. Speak about your experience with that.
The teaching people to take care of themselves. Well, I can certainly speak to the passion part. I certainly went to go see different physios and coaches. And yeah, the fact that he loves his job so much is very evident. Yeah, he didn't just say, okay, do these 3 exercises and go home. That explanation I gave you, that very professional sounding explanation was what he taught me in the office. So yeah, that's a really good point. I came in wanting like a couple exercises and came out with a whole new understanding of how my body works together. I actually went back to my gym and kind of showed them some of the things that I had learned, and they were like, oh, gee, yeah, we didn't learn that in school. And so yeah, I do like that. So now, because it worked so well with me, we had my husband come in to see John too. And same thing, my husband went in for hip immobility, and John let us know or pointed out to my husband that it was actually his breathing. He was holding his breath and clenching his jaw. So instead of his body connecting and using the big muscles, he was starting up here. And through teaching Jazz that, my husband, to be able to be aware of that and notice that, we then went home and kind of did a little assessment on our kids, and we were able to see that our son is the exact same way, a lot of breath holding, which was getting in the way of the way his body moved. So yeah, certainly very passionate, and you do come away with an educated and higher level of understanding of the body than when you went in.
And that's exactly why I wanted to bring people on to the call to talk about it, because it's one thing to say it, it's another to have experienced it yourself. And all the practitioners at Body Smart try to bring that level of interconnectedness to their practice. Hey, Jazz.
There's my hubby.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry to crash your party. I'm actually working from home, so I have like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I've been overhearing. I'll add one more thing. So everything she said was true, but something that is special or unique about the way John does it. We have this saying in my line of work, it's called time to insight. It's like how much time it takes to come to a conclusion. And what's interesting is just having John and his family over for dinner, just a conversation over beer, he's able to do...
We don't drink beer, we just drink water. I'm just kidding.
A very quick assessment and come to this conclusion. And that was pretty amazing because that was like 5 minutes. Whereas I've gone to other physiotherapists, and it might take 4 or 5 sessions of them, kind of pulling my leg and trying stuff until I come to some sort of conclusion. And this guy, within minutes, like literally minutes, I'm not even exaggerating for the sake of this call, had identified the breathing and the jaw. It's almost like he had an intuitive sense of just by me describing what's going on, and I was able to pinpoint it. And if for clients, there's probably a great efficiency there without having to do like a month or 6 weeks of sessions. You can probably get to a preliminary conclusion and a plan probably within 1 or 2 sessions. For me, it was minutes.
That's a really good addition, Jazz. Thanks for jumping on and sharing that. And I know that the list of people with similar stories about John and the other practitioners at Body Smart is similar. It's certainly been my experience. And I also saw a different therapist for about a year trying to fix a hip issue. I think the issue ended up being related to breathing in my back and my diaphragm, and it was nothing to do with my actual hip. So it's pretty common that we find these things that our body is so interconnected. And that's the other reason why John and I introduced Ariel to these discussions, because there's so many different nutritional and other components that go into how we're feeling and how we're functioning. And we want to help people put in place these building blocks for their health. I want to actually turn it over to Madison, who's on the call. Madison is a patient of Ariel at Vitality Health, or Vitality Wellness, sorry. And Madison has, I think, a similar story to share about her experience. And again, it's important that we mirror our experiences for other people so they can be encouraged that there's help out there for some things. And people really aren't ever alone. And there are people like John and Ariel that will put their hand up and say, yeah, I can help. So Madison, what do you share for a moment about your experience working with Ariel?
Ariel and I have a long history together of being friends, but fortunate enough, we're sister-in-laws now. Aside from the relationship that Ariel and I have together, her practice, it leaves me completely unbiased. It is like something I have never seen before. When I was growing up, I didn't come from a family where we took into holistic practices or we even really ate healthy. I had to learn it all on my own. And through that, I learned different avenues of, go see a naturopath if you're getting sick versus going to see a doctor, and what you eat truly does matter, and your water intake and your fitness level and your mental health and all these sorts of things. And so as I was going through my own personal journey, I would seek out individuals to help me to, just so that I could work at my best, I'd be the most optimum. And I never really found the same kind of help that I did with Ariel. So when I started to see Ariel, what was going on in my personal health was I wasn't dealing with any chronic illnesses or anything like that. I was just looking to really keep up with myself and just find a platform where it was just completely laid out for me. There was no questions. There's no guessing involved. And so for me, I struggled a lot with my acne. As a kid, it was really bad. It was my forehead and along my cheeks. And then as I got older, it started to show up in more of my hormonal areas. And nothing was helping. I was on Accutane at one point. I don't know if some people don't know what Accutane is. It's very, very bad for you. There's long-term kidney damages to it. If you were to get pregnant while being on Accutane, that baby has a 100% chance of being, for the lack of a better word, retarded. So there's a lot of high risks involved in that. But because I cared a lot about my skin, especially at a young age, it was something that I was willing to do. And so once I came off of Accutane and I started to focus more on my holistic journey, my acne came back, and that's when Ariel really helped me out. So walking through a session with Ariel, you go in, she looks at your eyes, your left eye, and Ariel, correct me if I'm wrong, but your left eye is your dad's side of the family and your right eye is your mom's side of the family. So she was able to look into my eyes, simply just looking into my eyes, and she'd be able to pinpoint and say, you have thyroid problems going on, your dad's side has a cancer problem, and so on and so forth. And you're sitting there and you're like, I haven't even said, like, you don't even know, like, you don't even know my best friend's name. Like, this is too much information for you to have right now, considering that I've given you next to nothing. So she would start off with that, and then she'd do Zyto scans that would run all of your hormone levels and how your body is interacting with all the things that are going on. And you can see it all happening right in front of you. And she's able to educate you and tell you, okay, like, your levels are too high here. Like, I would recommend you changing your diet in this area, or taking these supplements to help balance your levels out. And you can see, like, if this is the line of normal, like, there's some times where I'll be way over here, and then there's other areas where I'm here, and then but it's all consistent. It all makes sense as she explains it. And so then you're able to change your life and supplement according to what it is that your body is showing you that you need. And that's the biggest thing. I would go to a doctor, I would go to a practitioner, and they would leave me guessing, you know, or they would seem like they're unsure themselves. And I would walk away feeling hopeless, and I would turn to the internet to help me find out what it is that's wrong with me. But I didn't have that with her, you know. I got to walk away and I felt secure in my health. I felt secure in my visit. And then she would work through, and she would do live and dry blood analysis, where you can actually see your blood moving and interacting. You can see viruses, you can see parasites, you can see if you're dehydrated, so on and so forth. All these things are just very, very helpful. And so then she'll do acutherapy, she'll work through your stomach, she'll work with your digestion, she'll push your stomach down. You can feel it gurgle as it goes down. She'll massage you and everything. She does electromagnetic therapy. I do this because it's a coil and she shocks you. So it's kind of a mix of chiropractor, like that kind of stuff, and something else, I forget. But it just feels amazing. You walk away feeling great. She does lymphatic drainage as she does that. And the thing about Ariel is she is hungry for knowledge. And so she's always learning more. She's always trying to figure out how can she best serve people in her field. What more can she offer? What is it that people are really struggling with? And she will go to school. She will figure out, she will find the answers. And so again, I'll go back to the fact that I'm not biased at all. I tell this to everybody, and it's amazing work that she's doing. And so in my life, Ariel's helped me to refine my diet a little bit more. I try to stick to a paleo-based diet, but I find that for me, my lifestyle with my husband, we do better with just sticking to organic. And so whether that be organic dairy, if we are going to have dairy, then it will be organic. It has to be organic. I don't know, just like giving me more ideas to cook with, how to how important an alkaline diet is as much as you can maintain it. Your water, like Kangen water, is something that Ariel introduced to me, and that is the biggest game changer of it all. I actually feel hydrated. I've lost my brain fog. It's incredible. You can taste the difference. You can see the difference if you do a pH test to it. And so with the help of Ariel, she's incorporated all these new and cool things into my everyday lifestyle that have made such an impact and a difference in my life that I actually feel like I'm going somewhere with my health. I don't feel like I'm a slave to my body, or I'm a slave to food, or the next diet trend. Like, I feel like I actually have control. And because Ariel has instilled in me so much confidence, I've been able to make an impact on my family and my friends. Whether or not they're going to see Ariel themselves, or if they're just coming to me and they're asking they're asking me for advice, or like, so what it be, it's a domino effect of positivity and really what it is that Ariel's doing and how she's trying to change her community. So yeah, that's my spiel on what Ariel's done for me.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I think to kind of echo what you just shared, Madison, and the way it is working with Ariel, and John's been in her clinic as well. I experienced the same thing and have seen incremental change in my life. And that's why I was so excited to start sharing and bringing these two wonderful people together to try to share that word with others and expand their ability to reach beyond their clinics and affect the lives of people who can. So I think that kind of is about to end our session. Does anyone that's on the line have any questions before we close off? Just wave at me if you do, or unmute yourself and say hello, and please go ahead.
When can we do our next session? Is that going to happen? Because this was awesome.
We're going to do another one at 3 o'clock on Sunday. And also I want to mention that Ariel is making herself available for 20 or 30-minute phone sessions, consultations with people to talk about some of the things that she's been able to help folks like myself and John and Madison with. And we'll put it in our Facebook post and let people know how to do that. Or you can go to Vitality Wellness on Facebook and you can message them and set up a time as well. But we'll make sure all the information is there. It's a great opportunity and we appreciate Ariel making that available. You could also reach out to John through Body Smart and Facebook on Body Smart. We're here to help even if we can't be seeing you in person right now. Everybody out there, stay safe. And Madison, your skin looks great, by the way. So I think that's part of your testimony. Obviously, you should be very proud of yourself and the steps you've taken. Ariel, John, any concluding thoughts?
Nope.
Think we're good? All right. That was wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining us and watching along. Please, when you see our Facebook posts, do share them around to your friends. There's so many people that can be helped by today's conversation. It was really, really good. Thank you so much to Denise and Madison for offering your time. Thanks to John and Ariel for sharing your wisdom. See you next time.
Bye.
See you next time.